I'm calling the public hearing to order. This is Monday, October 28th, 2019, and this is a public hearing to hear interested parties that are invited to express public comments on the proposed ordinance 2019.10/413, adult use marijuana. Would anyone like to come forward and be heard?
Last time we were here, Sean had mentioned the idea of trying to keep an experimental open framework for where we would allow retail sales of marijuana. And I had objected to having it in the industrial park out of a concern that it creates an environment where someone just comes in, does his business, and turns around and leaves, much like you have with Lowry's. I love Lowry's. I think the Red Bud Roots guys are great. But it does nothing for the rest of the community, and it does nothing for downtown. And I think that it would be the biggest chance to have some true capital investment downtown in Buchanan if you would keep retail marijuana sales in the C2 and C3 business districts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else want to come forward? Go ahead.
Alex Llanos with Red Bud Roots. I'm going to address that point, but I have one quick question about the ordinance as it's proposed. Section 3, subsection C, the language currently reads that all adult use establishments shall be located at the same property in the same building. So, as you know, you have to have a medical license before you can get an adult use license. But what that does for Red Bud means that every building we expand to, we have to put a medical license into that first, which makes it a little bit troublesome. Some of the proposer, maybe some additional language we could add before that would be, with the exception of growers and processors, all adult use licenses. My reasoning behind that is, as I expressed, having to have the medical first before the adult. But I think the real concern here is with the retail, right? We're concerned about having too many retail shops in different locations. The other thing for us, what that means is you're talking about having to have 2 or 3 additional medical licenses that we don't really necessarily need. So as the market goes, right, recreational takes off, medical tends to decline. But if you're forcing a company to have those 1,500 in that same building, we're limited in the amount of adult that we could otherwise provide. So it's about $100,000 to $200,000 swing for us between this language in here. So that's the small little proposition that I would make for that one. Otherwise, I think the city's done a great job in terms of drafting the ordinance and working with its existing licensees. With regards to a provisioning center or retail within the industrial section, I guess I would disagree with that. I think not everybody wants to be seen downtown walking into these. I think some discretion is also appreciated by some of the clientele. In terms of options for that, I think retail locations where you can see into a grow, creating that idea that you can come visit, watch, walk through, and then purchase product at the end is kind of the design rather than just a quick turn in and out into the facility. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Viganski?
Ken Yansky, 103 North Detroit, Buchanan, Michigan. When I was sitting in them chairs, same complaint all the time, that as the public, we don't have any idea. We have to dig on Facebook. We have to wait for Sean or somebody on this board to post it so that we can read it. I still haven't read the end ordinance. The meeting times have been changed on numerous occasions at last minute. They're not posted, no matter what anybody says. They're not posted timely. I know the law says something like 18 hours. You guys as a group are supposed to agree on the times down here so that it is actually in the minutes. You're not supposed to do the phone calls and schedule the meetings. I understand all of your schedules are different. I sat in that chair. I know what it is. But I also know your meetings should be scheduled publicly, and they should be kept in a timely manner, not scheduled for 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then suddenly switch to 5:30. I'm very much against putting any form of dispensary outside of the downtown area. The city has done everything they can to kill the downtown area, between the DDA, the police department, and now the marijuana. They didn't want it downtown, they still don't want it downtown, and you know who they are. Leave it downtown, let's get our foot traffic downtown. If Redbud Roots wants a dispensary, let them put one downtown. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wanting to come forward on the ordinance?
I'd just like to know whether, since downtown is the beating heart of Buchanan and needs to be maintained, will people in the industrial park with industrial park dispensary be taxed at the same rate once taxes are sorted out, when they're not actually paying to support the downtown and the city so much? They could, in theory, just have a door, or go inside like a counter, pay your money, go out, drive away, so you don't go anywhere near downtown. But all the complications, even this meeting, all the things that cost money to support the marijuana industry, you might call it, are borne by the others. So I think we should think about evening up the costs, because we don't know exactly how the dispensary is going to work. So people may never come near Buchanan.
Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else wanting to make a comment?
Tom Jolly, 107 East Front Street. Basically, I just heard the tail end of Alan's, but we've spoke about it a lot this last week, and I'm in support and feel very strongly pretty much what he. My big concern is if you start to put, I mean, a group of us has put a substantial amount of money into this community, and I know that that's been over the last 12 years, and over the last year, I've put probably about 30,000 more into it. So to see the city do something to allow it to draw people out of the downtown, it would be like putting a huge microbrew, out in the country. That's not going to help the downtown. As far as the shame factor, we're looking at a legal substance here. There should be no shame. And I'm all for, if they want to have one, they own the video store. It's a great opportunity to get a piece of property restored and to have another business downtown. So that's that.
Rick Paniagua, 120 Front Street. I think I echo those same comments, that a couple years ago when it was considered to have these businesses here, it was about bringing some economic development, and Redbud Roots has done a great job. They've hired a lot of people, and this is the start of that economic development. These people, buy homes, they start to frequent the businesses in town, and it's the start. Now, we need the investment downtown, and a way to preserve that investment is to preserve the businesses for downtown. Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to make a comment? Come forward.
In support of the downtown.
Could you say your name, please?
I'm sorry, Kelly Dickerson, 107 Main Street.
Thank you.
As a small business owner in downtown, having a presence of the sales in downtown brings people in. If only for a novelty, they get to see the downtown. We have an Aveda salon. We have one of the best sub shops in the county. We have such great small businesses. The antique shops here are amazing. To completely have everyone bypass the downtown and not be able to see it, also a novelty. People who wouldn't normally partake, if they see people going in, oh, maybe I'll just sneak in and take a peek. It gets them in the downtown. It gets them excited. It lets them see what else we have here to offer.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and make a comment? No one else is coming forward? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I make the motion that we adjourn the public hearing.
Is there support?
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. So now we are going to move on. Thank you for everyone's comments. We're going to now move on to the agenda for our regular meeting. And I'm calling that meeting to order. So please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I don't see Father Leo here, so we will skip the invocation. We don't have any special recognitions tonight. Could we have roll call, please?
Moore,
Here?
Dennison,
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Turkey,
Here.
Whedon,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Now we are having public comments, and citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any item on the agenda. Does anyone want to come forward?
Hi, I'm Dan Bianchi. I've always got something to say. 103 North Detroit, Buchanan, Michigan. I want to thank Pat Moore and Bill Marks directly for keeping me off of any and all the committees. I want to thank the commissioners, newly elected, that haven't really spoke out about keeping me off the committees. I appreciate the letter from Brenda for the last time of being denied to be on the DDA. I don't know why nobody likes me. I'm such a love, cuddly teddy bear. You know, everybody just wants to give me a squeeze and a hug or a pinch. There was a couple of things on here, though. The contract. Are we going to get public comments about the contract with our new city manager or our old city manager? Are we going to be allowed to know what's in it before it's approved? Or are we just going to get it shoved down our throats? I would really like to know that before it's actually passed. I'm very much against renewing any kind of contract with Mr. Marks. I've made that abundantly clear. We can move on. We don't need the experience. We can find it out there, and we definitely don't need to be paying as much as we are. I do want to welcome the new DDA members, but I want to make it very clear. Thank you very much, Pat, for keeping me off the committees.
Anyone else like to make a public comment? Sure.
Alex Leonowitz again with Red Bud Roots. But I know I spoke about this, but one more thing regarding that subsection is that the city has clearly outlined where they want to see grow facilities located. So all of our facilities would remain in those locations. It's just the ability to kind of shift and play with the licenses within the existing zoning ordinance that everybody's drafted and adopted and abided by. We're just looking for some flexibility there to allocate those licenses that make the most sense for our business. That's truly what's kind of driving that concern with a little bit of additional language. So that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to make a comment about the agenda? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I will entertain a motion about the consent calendar. I think we have a couple amendments.
I would like to make a motion to add to the consent calendar.
Okay. You're probably talking item N.
So I'd like to add item N to approve the appointment of Adam Burke to the DDA Ad Hoc Committee.
I will second his motion.
Okay. Can we have a roll call on that?
Whedon,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. you had,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to add item D to unfinished business with a limited release of attorney information on the DDA.
okay, is there support for that amenda?
I'll support.
Agenda item? Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Ellie,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes?
Whedon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, very good. Are there any other changes to the consent calendar? Seeing no one speak, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Attorney,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes,
Whedon,
Yes.
motion carries.
very good. And that was a lot to go through. Thank you, everyone. We are now at reports, and there are no reports this evening. So our next, we are already moving to unfinished business. Consider the adoption of the ordinance 2019-10/413 on the adult use marijuana establishments.
Can you, okay, they can't hear. They're getting,
Okay. It doesn't seem like mine's working. Are yours working?
Test, test,
can you hear us?
I will.
Hello, hello. That sounds,
I think it's working now.
Is that better?
I think it's working now.
Can you hear me now? Okay, basically, what we've just gone through is approving the non-controversial items of the meeting with a few additions to the agenda. We've added item D to unfinished business, which is about the attorney opinion on the DDA. And we've added on the consent calendar approval of Mr. Adam Burke to the ad hoc committee for that group. So now we are finished with that. We are now moving to unfinished business, and we are now bringing up the marijuana ordinance that everyone's interested in. So, Bill, whoever's going to introduce it, Deborah?
This is the second reading of the adult use marijuana ordinance, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and read the summary of the proposed ordinance. And I would like to comment before I get started that this ordinance is a police power ordinance.
Can you speak, can everyone hear her at all?
Can everybody hear me?
No, they're saying no.
Okay.
So,
How about if I, can I, well, I
Yeah,
don't have
I
my
mean-
back to anyone, but this is a police power ordinance. The final determination of the locations of where adult use marijuana establishments will be located will be contained in the zoning ordinance amendment. We have a proposed draft for that ordinance. The November Planning Commission meeting, we will have a public hearing and invite your comments for that ordinance. This is the police power ordinance that talks about how we will regulate adult use marijuana establishments, talks about the standards, the permit process, the number that we will allow, and the fees that we are setting. So I'm going to go ahead and read this summary. I'd be happy to answer questions and concerns. Everybody hear me there? Okay, thank you. Oh,
There you go.
okay.
I got it. Very good.
All right. My chance here on the microphone. Following is a summary of the ordinance. Section 1 is the purpose. Section 2 is definitions. Section 3 is authorization of marijuana establishments and fees. Section 4 is requirements and procedure for issuing marijuana establishment permits. Section 5 is marijuana permit stacking for Class C growers. Section 6 is permit renewal. Section 7 is permit application evaluation. Section 8 is permits generally. Section 9 is minimal operational standards for all marijuana permits. Section 10 is minimum operational standards of grower establishments. Section 11, minimum operational standards of processor establishments. Section 12, minimum operational standards of marijuana retailers. Section 13, minimum operational standards of secure transporter establishments. Section 14, minimum operational standards of safety compliance facilities. Section 15, minimum operational standards of designated consumption establishments. Section 16, minimum operational standards of microbusiness establishments. Section 17, minimum operational standards of temporary marijuana events. Section 18, minimum operational standards of marijuana event organizers. Section 19, location of retailers, microbusinesses, designated consumption establishments, or temporary marijuana event. And just to clarify, that section deals with the distance from schools, churches, and public parks designated for youth. It's not a zoning section. Section 20 is denial and revocation. Section 21, penalties and discipline. Section 22, applicability. Section 23, enforcement. Section 24, severability. And Section 25, effective date. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Is anyone wanting to have a question? This is our 10th, 11th, I've lost track
Well,
of how
this is,
many drafts
this is
we've had.
draft 10, even draft 10
Yes.
got tweaked just a little, and I did add the fee schedule to correspond with the resolution that you have next. And like I said, we have had 10 drafts, we've had a lot of public comment. This is something that we need to get in place so that we do have a chance to regulate adult-use marijuana establishments. And if we need to amend the ordinance, based on what our experience becomes, we can certainly do that.
That's good to know, since we are all learning. This is a new industry for us, and excited to see how it blossoms. And I think this will be a
But we
good
do have a
start.
deadline, right, for
Yes.
getting this
Yes,
done?
we need to do something prior to November 1st. Otherwise, the state can accept applications for adult-use establishments, and if they meet the state requirements, the state will approve them and send them to us, and we won't have a say.
So, yes, Mark?
I would be interested to hear the other commissioners' information or ideas regarding Alex's statement about the medical on the same property as the recreational. I believe he has a valid point, and I really don't have any else to say. I think he gave a clear and definitive information as to why the rationale for the consideration of us possibly putting in language that would entertain the idea of not requiring them to have medical marijuana for additional buildings that go up, because I understand their current property would qualify for them to do retail growing, right? We're only talking about growing and processing, right? This has zero to do with provisioning centers. And the idea, the concept of them not having to entertain a medical license for a recreational grow seems quite logical. Once again, I'd like to hear.
No, I agree with you.
I agree with that comment and solution. If it needs to make a change at a later date, we can do that too. We need to get this passed.
Absolutely.
And then we can come back and make the necessary adjustments so that it is included.
Or the language that was suggested would be to accept growers and processors from the requirement of number C, which is same property and in the same building as existing medical marijuana facilities. If we exempted those, then I think that would accomplish
I think it's a language, I think it's a language thing at this point. It's not that
Yes.
we disagree. I think it's just a language that,
Well, would someone like to make a motion to insert the language of exemption of growers and processors in the appropriate place on item C on page 4?
I would like to make a motion to adjust C on page 4 to accommodate growers and processors to be exempt from the same property in relation to the medical marijuana, in relation to recreational marijuana.
I will support that.
I'm sorry, you're out of order.
Okay, and to be technical, what we're doing is we're amending Section 3 of our adult use marijuana ordinance, Part C, to add that language. We need to be
So we
clear.
have a second here.
And, yeah.
Are there any other comments or questions about that language? You okay? If there's no other comments, let's have roll call on the change.
Downey,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes?
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, very good. Are there any other questions about the ordinance itself?
Yes for comments, is that what you said?
Yeah, any comments or questions or?
Yeah, I think I do have a comment. Just, getting back to why, I think originally when we first discussed giving the recreational permits to the medicinal in the same building was to limit the number of retail businesses downtown. I mean, we just didn't want them in every single building on both sides of the street. So we were trying to limit it. That's how the thought came about, correct?
Yes.
But I think Alex had a legitimate point, and I think it's, it makes sense to do what we just did, so I'm going to defend that. But the other thing I want to state again, and I said it at the last meeting, is we're all still learning. And we're more than happy to keep changing this as we see what the market dictates.
Absolutely.
And this is not going to be the final copy. I can almost
sure.
guarantee it. So,
And also, remember, there's a zoning component
Right.
that will follow this. So this is our background here that we start tonight, and then
Right,
there's
we'll
other
continue.
steps that will be, also many opportunities for the public to weigh in.
sure. Can I say one?
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I think it's, I mean, to me, it's abundantly clear that Buchanan is open for business, and we are trying to promote business, and we're trying to be open to all that is new. And none of us really understand what's going to happen, but we're trying to set the table so that anyone who wants to come in and start a legitimate business and help develop Buchanan, we'll take them with open arms. So.
I agree with you.
Very good. Okay, with that being said, as if there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to consider adoption of ordinance 2019.10/413, an ordinance to amend the City of Buchanan, Michigan Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Businesses by adding Article 4, Adult Use Marijuana Establishments.
I mean, to approve it.
Sorry, did I not say that?
Yeah,
My
that's okay.
apologies. To approve it.
I will second that.
Okay, there's
My
second.
apologies.
Any further discussion before we take roll call? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you very much, and thank you
Deborah.
for all of
Thank
your
you very
hard
much.
work and comments.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Excellent. And thank you, everyone, for your comments. That does help us. All right, now, item B, consider adoption of the resolution 2019-10-197, setting the municipal permit fees for medical marijuana establishments, event organizer, and temporary marijuana event. I guess that's you again.
This is a resolution just clarifying our fee schedule, and it follows MRTMA. Pretty much, we're allowed to set a fee for our municipal permits, which is accepting the application, having the application reviewed, and then hopefully issuing the municipal permit. You can see that the marijuana grower, processor, retailer, secure transporter, and safety compliance facility, our fee is $5,000. That's in compliance with what MRTMA will allow. The excess marijuana grower is $1,500. That's similar to what we had for stacking, and there are state requirements for that, so that you have to have a certain number of grow permits in order to even get this license. And then for designated consumption establishments, the fee is $1,000, which is the same as the state. For marijuana microbusiness, the fee is $5,000, the state is $8,000. And then temporary marijuana events, it's $1,000 plus $500 a day. The state formula is a little more complicated because they have the initial $1,000 and then $500 per vendor, $500 per day, $500, there's, I think, an additional $500 if you're going to allow consumption. But I think that we, as especially getting into this, I think that these fees are reasonable and will cover our costs. That's the primary concern. And then the marijuana event organizer is, again, $1,000. And since we're only going to do one, that would be, and they're good for a year. So this is our fee schedule that's based off of MRTMA. And it also corresponds to the zoning, or the adult use ordinance you just passed.
Yeah, I do want to make a little correction on the agenda for item B. This is fees from, it says medical marijuana, but really we're talking about adult use marijuana.
Yeah, sorry.
So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, so everyone can see the resolutions before you. Are there any questions for Deborah? Bill, did you have something? Okay. Mark?
In regards to the temporary event cost, you said, so they have the $1,000 plus the $500 per vendor. Can you explain that now? Are they receiving that separately from the charges that they would incur from us?
Correct. When someone comes to us, we are going to charge them $1,000 and then $500 per day. The state is going to charge them $1,000, and then depending on the size of the event, the number of vendors, I believe it's a $500 fee for each vendor at the event, in addition to the $500 a day.
Okay.
And there was something else in there, but I'm not quite sure what that was. But that's separate from our fees.
And the reason for my questioning is it appears as though the state would benefit far more financially for these temporary events that they simply are just setting regulations for. And we're going to, and I'm not saying that we don't want to encourage temporary events, but it's much to what Sean said before. We in regards to signs, which is completely separate from this discussion, except for the financial connection, are we allowing the state, and I'm curious to hear everybody else's opinion, are we letting them off because, are we lowering our fees because they have to pay additional amounts to the state, or are we missing an opportunity for additional revenue? And is their financial gain high enough that they look at us and go, well, this is a great opportunity because we only have $500 a day, we already paid the state. So the state benefits and we just get $1,500. Well, if it's one day, right?
Correct.
So, go ahead.
Mark, to your question, I believe Deborah will correct me if I'm wrong. We have to substantiate the cost factor for that fee, right? So if it's less than 1,000 and, say 500, and then we charge them 1,000, then we're not in compliance. We're just trying to set a fee to cover our costs for giving that permit to the vendor. It's sort of like the other fees.
Right, but my point is that, so let's say, just for simple math, they have 5 vendors that come in. Each vendor gets charged $500. The $1,000 is already the one-time $1,000 from the state. Each vendor is charged $500, right, if it's a size thing. If there's
By
a
the
size
state,
component,
right.
correct. We're saying regardless of the vendor count, we're going to do $1,000 and then $500 a day. The state is gaining financially far more significantly than we are. But we're hosting the
I'm
event.
talking because if there was 3 vendors, we should be getting 1,500.
And I want to hear, does that make, I mean, are we out of line? Are we going to force individuals to not entertain the idea of coming to Buchanan because of that? Or are we simply saying the state going in financial gain?
I don't know if we can do that. That's a question we would have to probably find out.
Do you have any?
Same as the state.
Because we wouldn't be violating
And-
MARTMA if we charged the exact same amount in accordance with what they
Correct.
charge. That was
Correct.
my point.
Right, we cannot charge more than they can.
Correct.
So if that's the terminology, then we could charge per vendor.
But yeah,
could
and I
add
would
the 5.
entertain a discussion to see if anybody else felt like that would prevent potential events, because we are now hitting them with a second fee for the vendors in addition to the $1,000, instead of just a flat 500, irregardless of the number of vendors that attend the event.
I would say that, well, why don't we see what the market dictates? Because we can always come back and make the adjustments. Maybe some other city might do that, and they don't want to go there, and they come back here, hey, we could save a couple $1,000s by going to Buchanan.
Absolutely. All right, and that's exactly my point. Is there the idea that that potential could be there, correct?
Commissioner Downey?
Okay, so if this is for all the vendors at an event, would that include everything that they bring? What I'm getting at is this only marijuana, or is this other vendors too? Let's say I bring in a cart and I'm selling Doritos. Do I have to pay $500 too? Or is it a lower rate for
In the
food vendors
state law,
maybe?
it says vendors. So I would assume, I shouldn't assume, but
Right.
without
That's a
having
great line.
the definition of vendor,
know.
I
That
would
it would
think that
probably
it
be
would cover
anyone vending
everyone
anything at the event.
at that event,
Right, if
correct?
they're qualifying under that event.
I think with the potential income for the marijuana versus somebody who's there to serve food, we might want to separate food vendors or possibly something else from that.
Well, that would be under the policies and the regulations set by the state. So what we have to look at is that regardless of what vendor type activity you're handling inside of that event, they're each being charged $500. The state, if they get $2,000 plus $1,000, so it's $3,000, and we're getting $1,500 for the same exact people to be here. Now, what my discussion was is that, are we losing now?
I think the other thing that we gain, other than the financial benefit, is having people in town. So they're going to
Absolutely.
eat, they're going to buy gas, they're going to shop, they're going to do whatever. And I think we're putting too much thought into these events. I don't think these events are going to be a big thing, personally. But I mean, I think for now, we let it go as is and hope that people come to town and spend their money elsewhere.
And see, that's a valid point, and that's
But
why I wanted to bring the
I
discussion.
do say
Yeah.
that your point that we're doing all the work and the state basically can dictate.
But that's nothing
A big
new.
amount.
Yes,
That
that's not
we,
new.
and the whole point is with the fees, it's not us saying that we're charging up to 5,000. Those are dictates from the state. So we actually have to justify all of those charges in the years going forward. So it is unlikely at some point that we will have the same legal fees that we had to do all the startup and processing. So in the future, we could be actually only allowed to charge very little for even our permits. So I just want to make you all aware of that these are dictates from the state to us. And your point is well taken. We're doing the heavy lifting, and they're sitting in Lansing making this dictation. But I agree also that we're still learning. We'll see what kind of event, if people are getting along enough to even have an event here in town. Hopefully they will, that they would sponsor something that'd be very profitable for everybody and a spur to development. So, but your point is well taken. You know, this
Thank
is,
you.
if we were drawing
Thank
the situation, it would not be in that direction. So
Absolutely. Thank you. That's,
I totally agree with you on that. Are there any other questions about the fees? If not, we can have a motion to approve them, this resolution.
I will make a motion to approve the adoption of the resolution 2019.10.197, setting the municipality permit fees for the adult use marijuana establishments, event organizer, and temporary marijuana events.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, could we have roll call, please?
Dennison,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Turney.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're at item C, approval of labor contract with the city manager, William Marks. And before we start our discussion, I do want to thank my two commissioners that helped work with Mr. City Manager Marks on the contract. So thank you for all your effort, Mark and, okay, Sean.
Mayor
Oh,
and
yeah.
Commissioners, for the audience, I can go through the contract and provide the basically the highlights of the contract as we discussed. First, the bulk of the contract hasn't changed since November 14th, 2011, when I first became city manager. Moving forward, the items that have been changed in the renewal contract, if you approve that tonight. The contract duration runs from November 1, 2019, and expires May 31st, 2021, which is an 18-month contract. That is something that was negotiated, and I appreciate the commission and working with me. Basically, the plan is kind of an exit plan that we spoke about, because I've been here 15 years, coming up on 15 years, and my wife has other plans for me, and I'd like to start moving towards those. And so that's what this contract represents in that contract duration. So it was the one item that was changed. Number two, again, in the discussion, as part of the exit plan, I will be resigning as chief of police, and I'll do that as soon as the process can be followed that allows us to internally post for any officers that are presently working for the city of Buchanan. They'll have that opportunity, and that's under contract as well, to post that internally for 5 days and see what candidates may apply for this position. If we don't have a candidate that could fill the needs and requirements, then that would be posted outside, and we'd have a search for a new police chief. Let's see, item number 3 is salary. Salary for the position is $86,186.21. This is an increase of 4% from the previous contract. That was a 3-year contract, and during the duration of that contract, I was given 3% raise over that 3 years. Number 4 is the second year of this contract, which would be November 1, 2020. I'd also receive a 4% raise at that time. Number 5 might seem simple, but at the time of, in May 2021, I'd be eligible to buy my cell phone for $1 from the city, and I'd also retain the phone number that I actually brought to the city. I just wanted to get that into the document. And the last item of change within the standard contract is that the city commission will, prior to July 1, create an evaluation process that is a written form type of evaluation that we'll move forward with. So that's really the only changes in the contract since November 14th of 2011. I appreciate, you know, the work Commissioner Dennison did and Commissioner Wheaton on working with the negotiating the contract. So I'll ask you to consider approving it.
Are there any questions, or Commissioner Attorney?
I would just like to thank Mark and Sean for an outstanding job on the ad hoc and
Yes.
getting the pertinent questions answered and fulfilled. I think you gentlemen did a very good job on that. I appreciate your hard work.
Very good.
I think one of the things that needs to be noted, too, is that in our negotiations, we discussed that there would be a replacement working under Bill while he's still here.
Yes.
So we had kind of agreed, I think that we agreed that the person would be here for at least 9 months while you were still here. I think maybe our discussions have even made us think that that needs to be longer than that, so the search may need to start sooner rather than later. But it was important for us to set, like Bill said, an exit plan, and to have someone who wasn't just going to start from scratch on day one. So, you know, our plan was to have, so when the city manager left, we would have a new police chief already established, you know, in their own little thing, and then also have somebody who's ready to take over the day Bill leaves, so.
Yes, I think you did a great job, and I think it's something we're
Yeah, one
happy
more
with.
comment.
Sure.
If the contract is approved, it becomes a public document and is available to the public through FOIA requests to the clerk. So,
Okay, very good. That's good to note. Is there, yes, want to make a comment?
Just in addition to what Sean had mentioned, and if you're not aware, and I was unaware of small-town politics until a year ago, and it's definitely been an interesting road to learn and grow and understand exactly the intricacies of what they have to deal with and what we have to deal with. And in my travels, as much as people may not understand it, having a city manager for the length of time that we have, regardless if you agree or not, right? There's many politicians in this world today that many of us don't agree with, and many of them we do. Right? It's going to change, and it's going to ebb and flow, and some of them have been in place for far too long. But we have to be thankful for what we have, because you can go to many cities throughout this state and in this country that change repeatedly, right? And sometimes change isn't always good, and sometimes change can be detrimental to not only the town, the public, and the staff, right, and the employees. So please understand, this was not an easy thing, but we also wanted to exit with grace and with an opportunity to have individuals come and learn from the experience that was afforded this opportunity. We also wanted to exit with the potential for a new chief, right? We have some older individuals who staff our, chief, you're going to leave, and that takes the chief with you, right? So we open up an opportunity for the police chief to learn from the experience that's available to him or her at that time, right? So please understand that this is an exit strategy. Major companies do this every single day. It's a way to protect yourself and insulate yourself from the issues that afflict many small cities who don't do or are not afforded this opportunity. So don't just see and nitpick individual items within this and make judgment about something that you have limited knowledge about until you ask the questions that affect the holistic aspect of the decisions we made for this situation. So
Thank you. Good comments. Commissioner Downey?
After our closed session meeting, I was in favor of what we talked about, but as of right now, I'm going to vote no for this, because the last two times we've waited for our city lawyer to bring us something, it's been at 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the day, and I wanted more time to look at this. A couple things in here that it just seems incomplete. The city police, I thought we kind of talked about somebody taking over interim right after the transition. I mean, that's not a big deal, but there's no date at all on here. I'd like to see something there. And if you go back to Article 6, term and termination, under E, the whole thing is about the city manager, well, can I talk about this right now?
Well, it's not approved, but I mean,
Well,
or if,
I don't approve of that section there, because it all refers to the past contract. It's not updated at all.
okay.
I would not sign a contract like this that's open-ended. It's redlined in my business. And another thing is, I know that it's been common practice, but I would think that all the commissioners should have to sign off on this, not just the mayor. That's all I had.
Okay, are there any other comments about that? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the labor contract for city manager William Marks.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay. So we have a motion and support. Are there any further comments before we vote? Seeing no one say anything? Could we have roll call, please?
Whedon,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes?
Downey.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Bill, for everything you've done for us, and we look forward to your retirement plans and your extra effort as you get ready to leave us over the next 18 months. All right, now we're on letter D, limited release of the attorney opinion on the DDA. Did you want to bring up a comment since you put this on the agenda?
Yeah, I just thought since we had a letter from the DDA lawyer that was public, I don't know if everybody here got it, but then we had a counter opinion from the city lawyer, and I thought that since we have an ad hoc committee and 2 committee members are commissioners and 2 will not be commissioners, they are members of the public, they should be entitled to the same information. So maybe we should release, or we should consider releasing this to the public, or at least to the committee.
Does anyone have a comment? My personal preference is that I have no problems with a limited release to the people and with the letter marked confidential, that they handle it in a confidential way. That is one of the reasons sometimes we go into closed session is to discuss our attorney opinions. And since we haven't had, since you brought that up, really a chance to confer with the attorney if he has any objections over the release of his written material, which we could do at a future closed session. I would not have a problem with a limited release to just the ad hoc committee members. Sir, do you have a comment?
Sitting on the ad hoc committee, I think it would be beneficial for that letter to be released to the other 2 individuals on the committee, now that the committee's been formed. I think it'd also be beneficial to see the original letter from the DDA chair's attorney. So if we could get both for the ad hoc committee, I think it would help.
I don't believe the chair of the DDA has released the original letter that has been altered by him.
Well, that,
Or is that what you're talking about?
that's what I'm
his-
saying.
His
If we
original
can get
letter?
the original letter from the attorney, then I think, then the letter from our attorney should be released.
Okay. Do you want to make that a motion?
I will make a motion to approve limited release of the city attorney's letter regarding the DDA with the stipulation that the original letter received by the DDA chair is also released to the two individuals on the ad hoc committee and released to myself and Sean as well, who sit on the ad hoc committee.
Okay,
And a question,
yeah, sure.
do we need to check with our attorney first?
I checked with the city manager. He said that a limited release like this, as long as it's confidential and those people understand to hold it confidential until we are ready to release it, or until we've had a chance to discuss the full release of that, if it
Okay.
ever seems to be necessary, that this would, limited release is more practicable.
Very good.
So I don't think there's an objection. So, is there, so we have, did you support that? No, I got lost here.
Do you want me to
So we have a
read-
motion?
Have a second.
Okay, we need support. I'll support it. Okay. All right. Any other comments about it? If not, we can do roll call.
Okay. Turney,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you very much, and thank you for adding that. Now we're going on to new business. Consider the approval of the installation of the return activated sludge pump previously approved for purchase at the May 28th, 2019 meeting to be installed by Hickok Plumbing in the amount of $5,000. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and Commission. I would like to ask that you approve the installation portion of that project. We authorized and purchased this pump back in June, and this is now the finish of that project and putting it in.
Very good. Does anyone have a question about that? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the installation of the return activated sludge pump by Hickok Plumbing in the amount of $5,000.
Is there support?
I will support.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? If not, roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all you do. Okay, now we are now at public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any non-agenda item. Would anyone like to come forward?
Wendell Pitt, 312 West Buchanan. Two items. One of great consequence, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention this now, but when the commission is searching, I'll say it so you'll hear it without, if you don't want to. But when the commission is searching for an alternate or a trainee city manager for the very important post, I think we should adhere to the charter, which requires that city manager lives in the town. And it may mean more difficult to search, may mean poorer qualifications to start with, but it's a very important part in a small town of having somebody who feels they belong and lives here and lives with the consequences, talks to other people, hears from people. I think it makes a big difference. So that's one item. Second one is maybe have me hanged and quartered. My sister from Denver is visiting, and I wanted to ask her about all the marijuana establishments there, but she knows nothing. She doesn't participate or anything. But one thing in the conversation that came up was that they had a geese problem in Denver in the public parks. The geese were fouling up the parks, spoiling them for the residents, spoiling the water and so on. And they, city, went out and shot a few of the geese overnight, or anyhow, the people didn't actually hear the shooting, so it may not have been shooting, it may have been something else, but to get rid of the nuisance. Left a few for appearance and so on. Well, the public were very upset. There was all sorts of uproar in the newspaper. She said you could read it in the paper, whatever the Denver paper is. But I had been suggesting that to John Trapp, who's a very expert bird person, who rather despises our ducks because they are farmyard ducks, not wild ducks, obviously. And I had suggested to him that one action of the Duck Club should be to try and limit the number of ducks and take a certain number for meat, take them to Lowry's or somebody who's legally licensed to turn ducks into Thanksgiving fare, and provide them to all the people who benefit from the RAM food distribution and so on, who don't have much at Thanksgiving or at Christmas, and thereby keep them down to where they are attractive adornments for the park, but not a nuisance. One of the things we asked for was to have more fish, or help the fish in McCoy Creek, but it was pointed out to me, just downstream of the pond area, or where the ducks are, is the beds for the renewal of trout and salmon, right there, where the cold water comes out from under the city. That's a favorite place for fish bearing new fish. So our byproducts from the ducks doesn't help that at all. So that's the second thing that would be benefited. But let's keep them as an appearance item rather than a nuisance. Sorry.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else want to make a comment?
Good evening.
Good
Jason
evening.
Paderewski, 4340 Chamberlain.
Thank you.
I came this evening to inform Commissioners, Mayor Moore, of my intentions and interests in the property and business known as the Buchanan Feed Mill at 109 Railroad Street. Thank you for your time. My wife and I both grew up in Buchanan and graduates of Buchanan High School, and we're happily raising our daughters, Olivia and Alex, in the small community in which we were raised. Agriculture and farming are deeply rooted in our small town and surrounding communities. We have family that have been committed to farming local land for many generations, and the feed mill is always a central location of importance for our family and many others across the county. We're writing this with excitement regarding our official proposal to return 109 Railroad Street to a feed mill that helps and serves and creates success in the community. The building and grounds require investment and commitment that would be honored to make. We have explored contracts with Purina, with Nutrina, also with Kent Feeds and ADM. These businesses are eager to enter in partnership with us. We believe that we can create a thriving business that contributes to the success of Buchanan communities. I thank you for your time and look forward to hearing from you.
And please make an appointment to talk to the city manager, because I'm sure he will help you outline your process. And thank you.
Yes.
Before you head out, I got a question for you. What, if people can't come to Buchanan, where do they have to go next to get the supplies that you would be supplying? What's the closest thing?
Besides the obvious of Rural King or Walmart or something like that. It'd be several hours for, be it horse business or the show cattle, but that's what I would bring back to the community, so. And there is a high demand for it, and as I mentioned, Purine and Nutrien and all the others, they're wanting to get back here. When they left and the business closed up, it was missed,
Okay,
so.
Very good.
that's important to know.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to come forward? She's next. She's been recognized.
Hi, Donna Manel. I'm at 113 East Front Street. I wanted to thank Bill Marks personally. On Friday, October 25th, we had the grand opening of our new restaurant, Cameron's, formerly known as Sonny's, for coming out and representing the city during our ribbon cutting. Thank you very much for being there and participating in our new endeavor, as well as many of the citizens sitting in the audience here today. Very much appreciated your support. That event was amazing. We had a great time, and we would like to see you again in the future. Come on out. Cameron will cook for you. Also, I know this is an agenda item. It has to do with the contract approval for you, Bill. And the only thing I would like to suggest or recommend, and maybe it's already part of the process, typically I've seen and have participated in, and I'm not saying I'm participated in, but the consideration of what we would call selection committees that are not necessarily comprised of all of you individuals or Bill Marks, but they might be citizen representation or businesses in the selection of a police chief or the city manager. It kind of takes some of the heat off of you as the applicants are vetted, and that there wasn't favoritism involved, and that you get a candidate that everybody in this city and community can be proud of. So therefore, I'm just going to leave you with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments and congratulations. Anyone, oh, Dan?
I just wanted to ask about the street light, why it's blinking again. I'm Dan Bianski, 103 North Detroit, Buchanan, Michigan. Seems like we go through this twice a year. Our stoplight, it stopped working, it's just flashing again. If there's something actually wrong with it. And I did want to comment on the fact that we got all of our street lights fixed. That I&M must have changed all of the light bulbs everywhere. So it looks good. It's too bad it took so long.
Anyone else want to make a comment for public comments section? Okay. Okay, with that, let's start with Commissioner.
one more.
Oh, well,
Norma.
oh, Norma, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Have you limited the problem or erased the problem with poison ivy at the Ross Andrews building? I saw new growth. The roots need to be killed.
Okay, thank you for
Will it
bringing
be
that up.
done?
Well, we'll discuss it with the manager, so,
All right.
thank you. Anyone else before we move on to commissioner comments? Okay, not seeing anyone rise. Commissioner Dennison, why don't we start with
Are
you
we doing
tonight?
city manager comments first?
Oh, so we're going to skip him. No, okay, all right, yeah, I was jumping forward, all
We
right.
approve his contract, he doesn't need to speak.
And by the way, everyone, Bill just had a birthday, so let's say happy birthday to Bill.
Mayor and Commissioners, unfortunately, our last Saturday, a lot of our Halloween extra events got rained on pretty heavily. The numbers were way down. The track and treat, which usually attracts over 1,000 people, kids, we were down to 800 as an estimate. Unfortunately, the parade didn't develop as well as we hoped, and the Moose Lodge only had like 17 contestants for their costume contest. So that was a little disheartening, but hey, that's it's weather in Michigan at this time of year, and so that was unfortunate. The leaf pickup has begun. The routes that we're trying to follow or the areas of the city are posted on the website. They are on Facebook. And we'll repeat those as often as we can so people know that we'll be working in certain areas of the city with leaf pickup, and they can hopefully get on the schedule and know when to get their leaves out to the curb. And unfortunately, leaves have been falling. We had the torrential rains on Saturday, so a lot of our catch basins, which we have over 1,000 of those in the city, get plugged pretty quick when all the leaves fall. There's no human way possible that we can get all those leaves picked up out of the gutter to stop that from happening. So we did have some flooded streets, and our crews did make their rounds on Saturday to try to open those flooded areas up as quickly as possible. Halloween is coming up, 6 to 7:30 on the 31st and Wednesday. Again, we have predictions of rain for that event as well. We hope not, but Buchanan really comes out for Halloween. We will be public services, emergency vehicles, and that will have a display at the city center. That's where we'll set up. The candy checks that the police department does will also be available there for parents to take the kids, have their candy checked out. The ambulance crew will be there. Multiple fire departments will also be located there. We'll have all our reserve units out, as well as our full-time officers out patrolling. Everything that is drivable will be out and about during that time period. And I really want to recognize the community for stepping up and supporting the track and treat, the trails track and treat, and the amount of candy that was produced and dropped off here at City Hall. We had like 15 totes of candy that we got out to the trail group, and the remnants of that have been transferred to the police department and fire department to be given out during Halloween. So again, we want Halloween to be safe. We don't want any mishaps, so hoping the public remains very cautious when traveling that night. So that's all I have.
Very good. Now we'll go to Commissioner Dennison.
I wanted to apologize to Cameron and Donna that I didn't make it to the ribbon cutting. I had every intention of coming and having a beverage and helping you cut the ribbon, and then I got the flu and didn't go to work on Thursday and Friday. So I do apologize. I will be there soon. I wanted to thank the Scarecrow committees for all their hard work again this year. I saw they started taking signs down today. I think we've almost come to expect the Scarecrows, and we take them for granted, but they're a great addition to the community, and so I wanted to thank them. I also wanted to mention that Adam Burke, we added Adam to the ad hoc committee for the DDA ad hoc committee. If you don't know who Adam Burke is, he is the executive director of the Senior Center. Adam has 25 years of experience in community development. He's done a lot in Chicago with different chambers of commerce and, special services. He's got a ton of experience, and I think he's going to be a huge benefit to our committee. I also wanted to touch on what I felt was, I heard a lot from tonight about moving all of our marijuana to the industrial park, which isn't true. If you look at the way it's written, we're giving the permits to the people who hold the medical, and most of those are downtown. So I'm not sure I understand what all the concern is about the industrial. I don't know. That's all I have about that. And very quickly, Randall, I agree with you. I think there's too many ducks, and I think it's a great idea to feed some of the families in our community with the ducks. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it's an idea that nobody really thought of, and I mean, it's a great idea. I see, I mean, and I'm gonna say, I see them in the street, and I think, what a waste, you know? I mean, I think it's a great idea.
When they run over.
Yeah. So, good idea, Randall. That's all I have.
It should be.
I know. We were, because I think on the consent calendar tonight was the approval of the Friends of the Ducks Committee, right? Well,
Yeah, you're talking about
we should
eating
start
their
a new,
pets.
we should start a new one called, I don't know, Hunt the
Hungry,
Ducks.
the Hungry Committee, is that what you're saying?
So-
Okay. Anyway, Commissioner Downey.
Well, Randall, stay away from my deer. Everybody likes the deer in the backyard out at the restaurant. I'm thinking next year for the scarecrows, they're going to need raincoats. I mean, those things are just soaked out there. Norma, last time I got a haircut, I stopped and looked at the ivy on the building, and I Googled it. It's not poison ivy. It's just regular ivy. So we're good.
What is the new growth on the bottom?
It's that ivy that they killed. It's just trying to regrow again.
It will be killed,
It's just ivy. It's not poison ivy.
but it's the Ross Sanders building.
Well, I'm just concerned about the poison ivy.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Attorney?
I have no comments.
Not pro or against ducks? Come on.
No.
Okay, no, thank you. All right, Commissioner Whedon.
Thank you, Mayor. There's going to be continued discussion about marijuana, right? This is an ever-growing discussion. It's going to continue to some plague the mics and for others excite them, right? I think we have a continued discussion before us with the zoning commission, or with the zoning ordinance coming in, an opportunity to think about the downtown and what we're going to be doing with our marijuana facilities. And I think the apprehension with individual business owners downtown is that for retail business to even have an opportunity to be in an industrial park, much to the chagrin of our company here of Alex, and this is no way in association with who you are and who your company is, but it's only way to connect the dots for some people is think of it like a major retail business parking themselves just on the outside of your town, right? Away from your downtown, away from the visibility of what you intend to accomplish and what you want to accomplish downtown. And I think it was very clearly stated tonight that to pop in and pop out is too simple on the outskirts of our town, right? It's currently the issue with what we see in many cities in the surrounding areas of Michigan. And so I fully support the idea and the concept for what the public brought to our attention tonight was we want to encourage foot traffic, right? I think that designated consumption shops are going to be probably one of, if not the top, way that marijuana is going to be activity in our town. I don't think that retail, as we've seen, we have one provisioning center. One. Okay, so I don't believe that we're going to see this sprint to the finish line for everybody to open up a retail shop. I think we're going to see other areas of business. So I support the downtown in that adventure because I think we do need to see businesses come in. There is a business downtown that is owned by individuals that I'd like to. I'm excited to see what they do with that building, and hopefully it's something to do with marijuana and designated consumption. So I don't know. Enough about that dead horse. I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I did want to say in response to Mr. Peart's other comment. Your city charter is somewhat outdated because there is a footnote there as far as residency requirements, that is not constitutional in Michigan. There was a court challenge many, many years ago, and so there's no way legally we can put a requirement, residency requirement on any employee. So just so you know about that. And also, I did want to, there's several people on that duck group that would be very hurt and upset because these are their pets. So you're talking about eating their pets, okay? They're not wild ducks, they're their pets. And they're feeding their pets at great expense to themselves, and they just love these animals. They have names for them, so when you're talking about someone's going to have that for their Thanksgiving dinner, I think you haven't seen angry people until you see angry duck people, okay? And I haven't seen it yet. I don't want to see that, okay? So let's cut out the duck talk. And now the other thing I do want to encourage everyone, the Tin Shop Theater is in the middle of its run, and this weekend is the last opportunity to see this unbelievable, kind of freaky, scary, Halloween-y show called The Bad Seed. If you're familiar with the movie or the other plays, this has a little bit of a different ending, so if you think you've seen it, you have not. I would definitely encourage you all to see it. It's not something you take your children to unless you want them to be a bad seed. And so don't do that. But it's amazing. The acting is great. I just can't say enough of it. It's fantastic. So they do wonderful set work. You feel like you're in the middle of this whole situation, and I just, wish we could get more people out. The weather hasn't been too conducive for evenings out, but I would definitely make a plan for dinner in the theater, perhaps. Dinner in the theater, perhaps. Get it? Okay. So, yeah, it would be great. So, but it's called The Bad Seed, and the telephone number to get your tickets, you can also get them online now, but the telephone number is 695-6464. So reserve your seats. There's only 3 performances left, Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday matinee. You won't be sorry. This is my tip to you all. It was a very, very good experience. I was a little afraid I would be too afraid, but it was just the right amount of fear. So, and thank you everyone for all your input. Your comments are important. We've gotten a lot of work done. This is just, I'd like to say this ordinance passing was a culmination of months, years and years of working, but it's really just a beginning stage still. We would love to say we're done, but we know we're not. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, and it's something we're more than happy to do because we want to get this right for everybody. And so just bear with us as we go through this, and I think it's going to be wonderful. So with that, thank you everyone for your comments. I will entertain a motion to go into closed session so we can consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state statute and approve the minutes from the closed session of October 14th. So which means we're going to pass papers around, so you're welcome to stay or you can leave. And then after we pass some papers around, then we'll come back and then adjourn. So, you ready? Can we have a motion to?
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Okay, is there
I'll support.
support? All right, roll call, please.
Kearney?
Yep.
Downey?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes,
Motion carries.
very good.